Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive hard rock and heavy metal interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more. My guests for episode 179 are Brian Daniloski and Ann Everton of the progressive rock act Darsombra. Describing them as progressive rock kind of puts them in a box. They're more out of the box, atmospheric. They call it galaxy rock. It's a little bit of everything. Mostly instrumentals, some vocals. It all depends on how they're feeling for that particular album or song. They have a fantastic new album out called Doomsday Book. It was self-released on August 25th, and Darsombra are getting ready to head out on a European tour starting on April 19th. And here's Brian and Ann to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about Darsombra, how would you describe the band's music to me?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
What did our friends say about it recently? George Fig said, "Blow it out your ass."
Yeah, I don't. But I mean, nobody don't,
like that.
we don't know. So
it'll make your brains blow out of your ass.
No,
that wasn't it.
We put we call it trans-apocalyptic galaxy rock, but I don't know what that means. I mean, it's rock and roll based, but there's no drums. It's very drony and trippy. So some kind of, we sometimes tell people it's psych rock, just as sort of like a catch-all phrase, or psych prog, but I mean, it's kind of all kinds of things.
Sort of theatrical.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you said there's no drums. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Well, there's percussion, but it's not traditional drumming.
Yeah, and the rhythm, or the loops, we play to loops a lot that we create, and they're very rhythmic loops, and so a lot of people still feel the pulse of the music, so it moves more than typical drone rock,
Your latest album is Doomsday Book, with the letter U. It is your 7th album. You self-released it back in August. You described this album as the human experience during the pandemic. If you want to expand upon that, how does one take a theme and create an instrumental album?
That's a good question.
Well, there are a lot of vocals on the album and some lyrics and stuff, so it's not truly instrumental. I would say it's more like a concept album.
Yeah, but it's technically instrumental compared to like what most people would consider
pop
music with vocals and lyrics. It's a lot of it's more like voices as instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just we deal in moods a lot, so I think that's how we try to convey stuff. It's almost sometimes comes like across sort of soundtracky or sound
cinematic.
Yeah, cinematic. So we just convey the moods, the emotions we were going through during the initial quarantine lockdowns, and just what we did to sort of keep our spirits up during that time, and also the times when we were just feeling totally like overwhelmed and all that too. So it's all in there.
Well, I would imagine you guys had a difficult time during the pandemic as musicians, because you couldn't get out on the road, you couldn't play. I mean, I someone like me, I work in the public sector, so I had to work. So I don't know that experience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, we were unemployed for about a year because that's what we do. We tour a lot, and we couldn't do it. Nothing was everything was closed for about a year. And then it was still like another good year after that, where things started to slowly kind of limp back to normal. And even now, it's still not quite back to where it was, but it's definitely a lot better than it was in 2020.
So when it comes to the instrumentation, Ann, what instruments do you handle? And then Brian, what instruments do you handle?
Sure, yeah. I play synthesizer, and I do percussion, and I sing with Brian. And then also I do manage the video projections from stage.
And I play guitar, and sometimes I switch over to a bass, and do whatever, do some weird vocals as well, and just commandeer a bunch of like effects and soundscapes and loops that come in and out of the whole thing to make it sound much more than two people.
So the album's title, Doomsday Book, is derived from the Doomsday Book. That's one of the oldest public records in the English language.
Yes.
If you can describe kind of how you came across that particular Doomsday Book to incorporate into your Doomsday Book.
Sure. You want me to answer
Yeah,
that?
yeah, you answer
Okay.
that.
So Doomsday Book is a survey. It's like the first English language census, so to speak. And I think the idea was that this was kind of a census of our feelings and experiences and mind states during the first like few years of the pandemic. How it relates to the Doomsday Book itself, I think the title was really evocative for us. So the original Doomsday Book, it was named that because the idea was it was the most thorough compendium of names and people and stuff until Doomsday, as they believed back in, what was it, the 13th or 12th century or something like that. Also, that book was used as a record to help figure out how many people died of Black Plague. And there are a lot of sort of Black Plague kind of themes that weave their way in and out of the Doomsday Book album, if not in the sound, then definitely visually in the video work that is accompanying the album bit by bit. It's about half done. Other than that, am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
And you designed the cover art and you did the photos. In fact, you have a 12-page booklet that's included with the album that kind of illustrates each track. I didn't get a chance to look at the booklet, but I saw the album cover. So
Nice.
What were you thinking with the particular cover and that bismuth crystal?
Right. Good on you for knowing what that is. So it's like a 3-part composite image. The space itself is a place that we've been to while on tour. It's a Badlands in New Mexico called the Bisbee Badlands, and very lunar environment. The crystal is kind of on some 2001 monolith like thing that lands out of space in this unusual, inhospitable environment. And then obviously there's a picture of space in the background that I think we took as well on a tour at the Dark Sky Park, maybe in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I guess. The idea is that the music, like one thing I like to think about our music is, as you know, you said it's instrumental and as well, there's some lyrics and some singing, but voice is, instrument. I like to think that a non-human listener, particularly a non-earthling listener, could enjoy music that doesn't have a specific language that it's following, and it's more using just sounds to convey ideas or narratives or emotions or experiences or whatever it is. So that might be why the cover is sort of this made up science fiction-y lunar landscape plus crystal.
You say science fiction, but some of the things I've been reading in news feeds, it could be reality. It may.
Sure. Reality is a very subjective thing.
Brian, you handle most of the recordings while she handles most of the artwork, right?
Yeah. I have a home studio. We're hanging out in it right now. Yeah. And so I do a lot of the emitting the sounds to, it used to be tape, but now it's to hard disk.
Do you record any other acts within your home studio? Or is that just basically?
I used to. In my old house, I did, and then I kind of got over it. It's funny. I used to be a live sound engineer, and I had a recording studio as well. And now I'm just kind of happy to just keep it to myself and just work on this stuff for my own art. We
got a lot to work on.
There's a lot to work on, and it's fun to do with other people, but it's. That's a whole other thing to do. So
It'd be another job.
Yeah, it'd be another job. Yeah, exactly.
We can only have so many jobs.
So not anymore, but I used to.
We each have a few jobs, so we're jobbed up.
Yeah, have to today.
Yeah.
So when it comes to performing live, is it just the two of you trying to recreate this sound, or do you have other musicians that you bring on stage?
It's just us.
We have the digital musician that comes in the form of what is that? Boss loop station pedal.
We create
That's
lots
our
of
third
layers and
musician.
loops, and then
Oh, and the fourth musician in terms of a video that we use almost as like a timer for percussion.
but yeah, it's just the two of us and our very just
Our machines.
giant allotment of pedals and machines to sort of recreate the sound, the wall of sound.
And you mentioned that, you have the screen behind you when you perform, and you have images on the screen, and you're in charge of that. Are these images that you guys have collected yourselves, or is it just images that relate to the music? How does that work?
Yeah, I encourage you and anybody watching this to check out our YouTube page. My background is as a filmmaker. I just got into playing music about a dozen years ago. And so the videos that we project behind us when we play are actually composed to the songs. It's kind of like a soundtrack in reverse, where we'll write a song, give it a good listen, come up with some kind of story or imagery or whatever that will match the song and heighten the sort of energetics of it, for lack of a better word. And we'll play it live in time to the music, which has become, I guess, a bit of a signature show for what we do.
Yeah, because it's not just, I know a lot of bands have visuals, and it's just sort of like almost like moving wallpaper behind them, just thinking it could look really cool, some really cool looking stuff.
Conceptually,
But our stuff is, it's like sometimes there's actual themes, there's people
Sometimes
acting
there's
out some of the
stories.
lyrics,
lots
sometimes.
of dancers.
Yeah, so it's very much a whole.
We got our fly girls up there.
It's very tied into like, the music is very, it's got to be precisely on time to the visuals and stuff and everything. So,
Yeah, I guess what it becomes is a very, what's the word, kinesthesia, like where all the things are happening at once. It becomes this very encompassing experience for the audience members, where they keep coming up after the show and telling us, I wish I had taken my mushrooms.
But it's like it's almost like a live band playing to a film. And with all the changes in the music happening with the changes in the video.
So have you ever underplayed the video or overplayed the images on the screen? I would imagine it's got to be tough to be in sync every single time.
Oh yeah.
We fuck up all the time. Like every show that we play, there's going to be a mess up. The question is, can the audience figure out where it is? It's like that bean in the king cake at New Orleans at Mardi Gras. Will they catch the bean, or will they just swallow it and shit it out and have no idea?
But also we
can fix things.
Yeah. And she controls the video from the stage, and she has ways to hopefully get us sort of back on.
That's to you.
And I do as well. But it's not like we're not playing to a click track or it's more like you start the video and we start the song, and and hope it lines up, and it mostly lines up. And
over the years we've gotten better.
We've gotten really good at doing it a lot.
Minimizing the challenge.
Yeah, there hasn't been that many giant train wrecks, but I mean, there's it could happen.
You guys getting ready to head over to Europe for a little tour from April 19th to May 25th. You toured extensively in the US last year.
Yeah.
I know you got a couple more dates in the US before you head over to Europe. Are there any particular stops that you're looking forward to along the way?
Yes.
Sure. Wow. He's getting rambunctious. Sorry, we got to put our cat down. He's
ready to bite.
He's ready.
He doesn't want to hear about this European tour.
He doesn't know we're leaving yet, so don't.
It's
on the Orkney.
Yeah. I love Northern Scotland, and that's where my family's from originally. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to Inverness. That's on Loch Ness, and it's a really beautiful place. Great music community there. I think what people forget, and this is kind of like the story of our lives, is that there are scenes for independent music all over the world. I mean, we could play some rural town in Malaysia, and there'll be, dozens of people at the show because they all love noise music or something like that. And we're hoping, I think, that Europe is going to be the same way on this tour, because we've got a lot of weird little towns.
Yeah. We've played Europe almost a half a dozen times. I think this will be our 6th time going over there. But this time we got the good fortune to get on some really pretty well-known festivals that we were like pretty excited to be on, like Desert Fest and Roadburn and Exile on Mainstream is going to be celebrating their 25th anniversary with the festivals in Berlin and Leipzig. And that's a festival, that's a label we worked with in the past. So we're really excited about those. But then also we're excited to, every time we tour, it's nice if we can add in some places we've never been to before to say, yeah, now we've been there as well. And on this particular tour, we're going to be going to Poland for the first time and Ireland for the first time. And I'm pretty excited about those places because my folks did the DNA test thing. And a lot of my dad's DNA is from Poland and Ireland. So I very much look forward to, visiting those areas. We even took a little time off in both of those areas after the shows, so we can kind of, just kind of wander around and see what we can find,
You're still actively trying to book shows in between kind of the dates you already have booked, right?
A few, yeah, we got a few spots there.
Spots.
We're
people listening, grab them while you can.
They're booking up. We still have some dates in mainland Europe and some dates in the UK that we're hoping to, fill in for sure.
You're kicking off the tour at Roadburn, a big music festival. I know a lot of bands like to play the big festivals because it kind of introduces their music to different audiences and stuff like that. But also, I would imagine that you're probably a fan of some of the bands there on the bill too.
Oh yeah, and there's bands on all of the festivals we're going to be playing on that I'm really excited about seeing. I think Godflesh is playing Desert Fest, maybe. And then there's just all kinds of amazing bands playing on Roadburn,
and Exile Mainstream.
And X, all of them really. But yeah, very much looking forward to several. I think Jesus and Mary Chain's like one of the big headliners on Roadburn, and that's a name that takes me way back. I think I might have even seen them in like late 80s, early 90s, so on another bill with a bunch of other bands from that era. So I'm kind of excited to see what they're bringing to the table and a whole bunch of the bands. I mean, it's going to be some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And who are you looking forward to?
I definitely look forward to seeing Godflesh. Who was that experimental musician that was going to be on the EOM Fest they just added recently?
Oh yeah. It was a Casper Brotzman Massacre.
Yes.
Yeah. We're really looking forward to seeing Casper Brotzman at Exile on Mainstream in Berlin.
And Exile on Mainstream is a record label, and they released your 2012 album?
Yeah, 2012 album, Climax Community. Yep.
So did you reach out to them? They reach out to you? Is this like a big label reunion kind of show?
It is. It's a big label reunion show. It's like their 25th year anniversary. We played their 20th anniversary, and maybe there was another one. God, that was back in like 20. We played several festivals that Exile on Mainstream's done in 2010 and 2012, and then it was the 20-year anniversary in 2019. Now the 25th anniversary. So yeah, they kind of, I think, I don't know. We kind of all reached out to each other because we've been trying to get back to Europe. We were supposed to do a big European tour and play Roadburn and some other stuff in spring 2020. And so this is the tour that was supposed to happen 4 years ago. We got a little sidetracked with the whole COVID business and all. And so now we're finally coming back 4 years after we were supposed to come back and play all those places again, do the Exile on Mainstream thing and the Roadburn thing. And so I think we were just kind of keeping in touch with each other the whole time. And I think Andreas was like, hey, we're going to do this thing again. And if you're coming over, you're welcome to be on it. And I said, well, I don't know. Let's see if anybody else will have us, because we can't come over there and just do the 2 shows, so let's see if get any other festivals or venues interested. And when Roadburn and Desert Fest said, hey, we were like, okay, it's on,
Right.
So
I can't say no to that.
So what are your plans after the European tour?
Well, let's see. We're home for a few months in the summer, and then it's an even year, so we're touring south. On the odd years, we tour through Canada to Pacific Northwest, typically. And on the even years, we tour south through the Southwest to California and back. And this time, we've added in some shows in the Baja Peninsula, because we played Tijuana a couple times, but we'd like to get further south to Ensenada, maybe Tecate, go back up to Mexicali. So there's that. What else?
I think that's our big plan is the Europe thing, and then the big Mexico US thing in the fall. Yeah. And we're currently already working on jams for the next album as well. But I never have time limits, and I never
we are
have deadlines. So a new album could happen next year, or it could be a few years from now. It just all depends, how things work out.
The joy of sort of kind of running your own label, I guess.
Yeah.
You put out your records when you damn well feel like it.
Yeah.
We are thinking too about a little Florida something in January, because it's been a long time since we've been there.
We try to go like everywhere in the US, but rather than
in Canada.
And in Canada, but I mean, like it's hard to tour the US. I mean, you can do it in one tour, but to do it properly, it would be like 2 months or more. And so we decided to break the country up. We kind of sliced it right down the middle, since we're on the East Coast, kind of in the middle. And then like Ann was saying, every even year we kind of do a big tour out, down the south leg and then back. And then we do a big north kind of big hot dog looking loop.
In the odd years.
And so,
although we're also due to get back to Southeast Asia. That's been on my mind a lot recently. We've toured in Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia in 2018. And it's been too long. We got to get back.
Yeah, trying to always get back to places we've been before and then add some more each time. And every time we add more stuff, it takes us longer to get back to everywhere, because you want to keep going back to all those same places again, So
yeah.
I read in your bio that you guys will literally play anywhere. You've played bars, clubs, roadside, museums, monuments, side of the road, pop-ups, subways. So obviously sort of a carefree attitude just to get the music out there.
Yeah, well, what happened was, we started going to these camping festivals where sometimes there'd be like these bands or whatever would just kind of show up, and we decided, well, how can we do that? And especially we had done a big tour in 2016 where all these shows were getting canceled, but we were driving through some of this beautiful landscape in the deserts of, like Southwestern America. And we just got to the idea of, wouldn't it be fun if we could just, it's just two of us. We don't have too much equipment. We do it in a tiny rehearsal space. Couldn't we figure out a way to just power this with a generator or something like that, and just pop out of our van, set it up real quick, and play a show? And so we were doing these kind of guerrilla shows. Especially, it kind of really started off around the time like live streaming was starting to become a big thing. I remember Facebook started doing the Facebook Live thing, and just people were doing live stuff all of a sudden. And so during that tour in 2016, where we were kind of having a lot of shows canceled, we were like, well, screw this. Let's just stop right here in this beautiful place in the desert with this amazing landscape behind us and plug into a generator and then just, put it on if we get cell service, turn our phones on and do a live stream right then and there. And it became kind of a big thing. And it was like, we were sort of known for it. I mean, we did generator shows in the Badlands of South Dakota, and with the Pacific Ocean behind us, on the beach, on the Lost Coast of California, and just wherever. So
I think that opened their mind to just playing anywhere.
Yeah, it just made us realize, and like we do house shows, and those don't take a lot of setups to just kind of, and we thought,
as long as you have power.
I said, if somebody invites us somewhere and they treat us good, and we could bring out a show and just set it up. We power it right out of the van now we don't even have a generator anymore. We got a second battery in the van, and we just plug into the van and set it up and then do it, visual show and everything.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your 2019 album Transmission. I took a listen to that. That is one song. It is 41 minutes and 19 seconds. That's pretty ambitious for an album.
Yeah.
Well, when you're an independent musician, sky's the limit.
Well, I noticed you had a vinyl release for that, so you kind of had to make some edits here and there, right?
Yeah, so basically it's funny because I consider the CD or the streaming or whatever downloadable version of Transmission to be the superior version, even though I know there's like these vinyl purists out there that insist, oh, vinyl is the best way to ever listen to something. But unfortunately, with Transmission, we have to fade it out at the end of side one because you only get about 20 minutes a side, and then fade it back up, at the beginning of side two.
It's a logical break in the theme of the song. I mean, it makes sense.
Put a break in a good spot, because
it might have been kind of composed for that.
Well, because we do always these days now that we put pretty much
Keep
everything
it in the back of our minds every time. How's it gonna split up on an album?
Yeah, every time we do something on an album, we're like, okay, we gotta keep this under, like 20 minutes or whatever, and if it goes longer than that, then we got to just do the old fade out and fade back in, so.
I notice a lot of your albums are on vinyl. Is it difficult for an independent artist to get vinyl pressed?
No.
It's not difficult. It's not cheap, but it's not difficult.
It's an investment, and an investment in the belief that this band will not just randomly dissolve.
Yeah, and it's an investment. You hope
for instance,
buy them.
We might get 500 records thinking like, all right, well, we're gonna sell these. It might take like 3 years, 4 years, but because we tour pretty heavily about twice a year and then little shows in the meantime, things just keep
they eventually sell out.
Like
it takes a little while,
I think our 2016 record, we have like 6 of those left or something.
Yeah, we're almost out of an album that's
they do sell
about 8 years old now. It takes a minute, but
we're not talking about
but that's okay, because I want to always have something out there, for sale and stuff. And the only obstacle to doing it is just the money. If it costs kind of a lot of money to press vinyl.
But this band,
but then you sell it, so then you make the money back.
We've been investing in this band. Like Brian started this band in like 2005 or 6, and then I joined the band in 2010, and then more and more in the capacity as a musician 2013 and on. So it was kind of like it's not anything new. And the regular touring, I mean, we've been on, a few dozen tours. So it's kind of like, we're just going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
We don't have kids. We have a cat. We own a house. We're very comfortable in our strange artist pocket as adults. So it's sort of one of those things where it's like, oh, this is what we do. We make records and sell them. And if they sell out, great. And if they don't, our nieces will have a lot to deal with when we go.
Have you ever played Transmission live?
Yeah, lots. Yeah. Usually that's most of the time when we're going to play that song, that's kind of it. That's our set for the night,
It's very dramatic.
And so it's funny. We'll set up all the material, our equipment, and then come on stage and I'll say to the sound man, do we have time for one more song? And then we proceed to play our 40-minute song and say, thank you, good night.
I think it's a good one for a seasoned Darsombra audience, for a new audience, perhaps if they're in the mood for something like that, because the first half is kind of metal and the second half is kind of psych. So you have to have an open enough mind to absorb both those kinds without being like, what is this metal shit or what is this psych shit or whatever. But people seem to like it.
Yeah, it moves enough. I mean, it's not like we just meander and make atmosphere.
Oh, and the video is really dramatic.
Yeah, there's a really good video. And the song's got movements. It's like, as you've heard, it's like kind of got the mellow part and then the heavy part and then the walking through the desert part, as I like to call it at the end there. Yeah, so
I mean, there's a lot of dancing in the video and there's costume changes and audience participation, I guess. Audience harassment.
Yeah, it's harassment, maybe.
There's some audience harassment typically with one of our shows.
Well, and you seem to be pretty big on the visual art stuff. Have you thought about doing like a concert movie for Darsombra?
Oh, yeah. Well, we do have a few documentaries we made up on the YouTube page. One is like a variety show. Another one is sort of a concert movie about the generator shows we did in 2019 in the Badlands and in a place in Eastern Oregon that's very near and dear to our hearts.
And then there was recently a documentary about the time we played during the...
Oh, yeah. There's a concert video from when we played during a total solar eclipse in middle of nowhere, Wyoming. So it's like the documentaries, which we call Darsombra TV, are slowly dripping out of our in-house production staff of one. And as far as like a concert film, that would be really fun, particularly at a point where we could play all of Doomsday Book live, for example, because that is a 75-minute album, and I am in the process of producing films to each of the songs that will have a overarching narrative that will make it like an actual feature film, basically. So sky's the limit, independent band.
But it's interesting because it's funny. I mean, like we have the visuals when we play live mostly because I'm like, well, it might not just be so interesting to just watch us play instruments.
Well, also we came
hour.
together as a musician and a video artist.
Right. So
my background was not in music.
So when you see us live, you have the option. You can watch the band play, or I can look at the visuals, or
you can see them both. I mean, the way that we project the video, it's not on the screen behind us with us being lit up by external lighting, but the film is actually projected on us, and we're wearing white, so we're part of the film, and sometimes interacting with the film that's happening behind us.
Yeah.
So the idea is it's all smushed into you. You're like that guy in Clockwork Orange with his eyes held open, watching all sorts of horrible things, except that hopefully our films aren't as horrible as what Alex was subjected to in that film.
And you mentioned earlier that you joined the band around 2010. Prior to that, it was Brian's solo project. So how did you two meet and decide to make this a duo?
Well, when we became friends, we both had a creative field that we were sole collaborator. Nobody else. Keep him away. He had been in bands in the past, and I had collaborated with others in the past, like doing music videos and stuff like that. But we both had pretty strong independent practices, and a friend of ours encouraged us to put those practices together in a performance at a puppet theater many, many years ago, and the rest is history.
Yeah. She just said, I want Anne to show her visuals while you do your soundscape thing. And we did it, and we thought, this is a natural. It works so well together. So
it was organic.
And it was interesting to watch the band evolve, because at first it was just me as a one-person solo project, and then Anne joined. But at first she was just creating the visuals for it, and it was still just me on stage. And then even a little further down the line, then another friend encouraged, Anne to get on stage, and I was encouraging her. And so we bought some instruments, and we decided to make it a two-piece band.
Goes to show, and the synthesizer, you can make it sound good no matter what. Our cat sits on the freaking synthesizer, and he makes like these EDM jams. It's not my kind of music, but he loves it. And, it sounds good, right?
You got to run up there with the recorder while the cat's.
We do.
We do. He may be.
I think we're gonna put some of his jams into the next album.
I'll get him.
He's going crazy over there. Yeah, get him out of there.
So you mentioned you're jamming on some new tunes.
Third member of the band.
I have two black cats myself.
You know it. This guy's very charismatic. So
his name's Bon.
And be in the video.
Like Bon Scott.
Bon Scott. First singer from AC/DC.
He's a big kitty.
Only one arm.
Really?
Yes, he's a
tripod.
Oh, jeez. I assume you adopted him.
He's just there. We found him.
Yeah, we found him
around the corner from the house, and he wanted to be part of the fun. And now he wants to be in the band.
Got to get him one of those little cat carriages with a little zipper on it. Keeps him inside.
Oh, he'd love it. He'd love it. As long as he can be involved, he's happy.
You mentioned you were jamming on some new material. How many songs you got for the next one, do you think?
We don't know how many songs it's going to be. Anne says it's 3. I work on one song at a time.
I think it will be 3. I have an idea for a song that's very far-fetched about my love of municipalities. And Brian's got this metal idea that we're kind of mashing into something.
I want to do something a lot doomier than Doomsday Book. Doomsday Book's a funny.
Yeah, Doomsday Book's kind of a pop.
It's a bit of a misnomer because it started out as we wanted to make it a Darsombra's version of a pop album, and also I think a lot of the songs didn't. They're kind of dark, but they're not always. I think a lot of it was a little less heavier and darker than we've done in the past, because we were just, I think when we were stuck in the house, we were actually inclined to make music that sort of lifted our spirits a little bit.
There's a little bit of woe is me.
There's a little bit of woe is me, but there's also a lot of like, but there's still hope.
There's a lot of like, let's make fun of myself for woe is me.
And now we got that out of our system. I want to do something that's very dark and heavy and noisy.
Woe is everybody.
Yeah.
Woe is the world.
You know, get back to the deep dark riffs again. So that's the plan. We're always shifting it up. There was always a concept that, again, for like a sort of a, what do you call it? Like a very ambient album where it just moves really slow, and
that could be one of the three songs.
So there's always, I always like to have themes, but who knows what's gonna be next. You say you're gonna do something, and then next thing you know, whatever the spirits
the muse guides
channels you, and turns out to be like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, the muse will often guide us into it.
Yeah. I would have never thought about doing a song like "Call the Doctor," but sounds a little goofy and poppy, but
or everything is canceled.
But it just came out, and it's just like, we got to do it because it's what's coming out,
So, Anne, I got to ask you about your love for your municipalities. What's that?
Right. What's that about?
Yeah.
Well, we live in Baltimore City. This is where I was born, and nearby where he was. Well, I guess you were technically born.
Technically, I was born here, and then I
grew up in the country, but moved into the city when he was younger. We are also city employees. We're Baltimore City. Oh, nice. All right. So there you go. That's why you're asking about my love of municipal things. So we are yoga teachers for a city rec center. And it's great. We love it. We love being involved in our city and our neighborhood, our community, and West Baltimore in general, where we live. And there are a lot of nuances, particularly to Baltimore, that I think a casual observer, and particularly a non-native observer, might not catch on first visit. And so I'm kind of in my mind slowly compiling a list of all these things that might happen to rhyme and force its way into some kind of lyrical content. Like simple things that, people might not get why we love this. Like, oh, we live nearby a 12,000 acre forest that we happen to like to go hiking in all the time, even at night, even though there's a famous streaker covered in oil that runs through the forest every day. Maybe we'll see the naked man in the park. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Well, that does sound exciting.
It's going to be fun. Definitely very silly. We try hard not to be too silly, but it's very important, I think, to have.
Well, we also,
in your work.
You don't want to be one of those dire bands. It's just,
unless we're making fun of ourselves.
Yeah, because it's just, I don't know.
There's a lot to complain about.
Yeah, and so I did a very big chunk of my time in a very heavy, angry band. And I feel like, okay, that was cool. That was fun. I did that bit. Now I want to not make like happy hippie music, that's
never the hippies.
But I just want to keep it tongue in cheek, or just kind of always having fun with it. Even when we're getting very heavy and playing very Black Sabbath and influenced doom riffs, I still want to have a sense of play about it. I don't want it to ever feel like, like the Jacob Marley or whatever, like the guy with the big chain that he's got to wear around his neck.
You're carrying an albatross.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen Voivod live?
Not live, no.
They're great live. I recommend that if you ever get the opportunity. They, make this incredible heavy music about, dystopian future visions and that type of thing, which is obviously something in our hearts. And when they play, these Canadians, they just smile and laugh the whole time, having a blast, can't think of anything they would rather be doing than being up there on that stage, entertaining you with their songs that make you think of the Borg colony from Star Trek or something. So that, to me, I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that's the ticket. They figured it out.
Well, before I let you go, I wanted to find out what inspired the band name Darsombra.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You can tell us.
So originally,
He
when it
was
when
there
it when
it
it's
happened,
when
not
it's
me.
when it started out as a one-person project, it was it was sort of a reaction to the band. I was doing a band at the time called Meat Jack, and it was like a heavy band, and I wanted to do like a sort of a solo project because I was influenced by other people doing one people projects, like Joe Preston from the Melvins did the Thrones project, and Robert Fripp from King Crimson was doing the soundscapes. And I just thought that was so cool. I was like, wow, these guys can just go out there and always be making music, even if it's just themselves. They can make all these sounds with these days. There's all these pedals that you can layer loops and stuff, and play to. So I was very excited by that. So the band was called Suck Pig originally because it kind of sounded like Meat Jack, Suck Pig. It just had that like nasty kind of sound, two quick syllables.
Badass.
And then right before I was about to I was starting to put together the first album, I thought, I'd already had the name for several years, and I thought, I don't like this name anymore. I've outgrown it, and luckily it was at a point in the, development of the project where I was like, well, I still haven't officially put out a full-length album. I can just change the name. So, I was just looking for different sounds. I like music. I like words more for their sounds, their phonetic qualities than anything else. I'm really influenced by bands like the Melvins, who will make a whole song and then the lyrics are just like, oh, those are just words that they like the sounds of. They don't mean anything. It's almost gibberish,
You can say that about Led Zeppelin too.
Yeah. Well, any band really, but
No offense.
any rock and roll band really. Sometimes it's more about putting together song or words that have a neat, phonetic impact rather than make any actual sense.
Bowie did that, does.
Yeah, and so who was it? I can't remember. My girlfriend at the time was. I was like, I'm trying to come up with some name, and I fixated on the word umbrage. Like I take umbrage to something. I don't know why, maybe, and it might have had something to do with that. She said it had something to do with that. It was a character in Harry Potter, Miss Umbridge, or something like that. Umbridge. I thought, oh, that's a funny name, Umbridge, because it's like, it's like, like I'm irked or I have umbrage,
It's like you have a black storm cloud.
Yeah. I just like the word. And she came up with Darsombra, which is it's two words in Spanish, to give shade or to give shadow, Darsombra. But Darsombra, but I just put it together as like one word. So I don't know. It doesn't really. I don't know what it means. It means to give shade. To me, I like the concepts of light, contrasts, light and dark.
And I mean, literally, if we want to do that whole video, we need it to be dark.
Yeah, we need to turn the lights out and be in the shade to do our show properly.
We should be Darsombra y electricidad. And then to give shade and electricity, we can give.
But yeah, so that was it. It was just to have something that had a neat kind of ring to it that sounded better than Suck Pig, So, and it sounded kind of dark and somber, which was kind of how the music sounded when I first started doing it. It works. It's a band name.
It keeps working.
And did you come up with the logo? Because I saw it didn't come in.
Oh, I wish. It was the very talented Christoph Spahe. I can't pronounce his last name. He's Belgian, I believe. He is the Lord of the Logos.
Lord of the Logos. If you look up Lord of the Logos, his name's Christoph. And he does a lot of those. He's very well known for a lot of those almost unreadable metal band logos. Like he did the Emperor logo, and then eventually he ended up making logos for, I think, Metallica. He got so popular, and
maybe for some pop star.
Yeah, some pop star like Rihanna or somebody like, I can't remember. Somebody was trying to do a metal logo, but he started off just doing all these. He's very prolific. He does all of these, the very dark black metal and death metal and metal, whatever kind of metal bands. He does all their wacky logos. And I met him in 2010 when I was over touring Europe with Jucifer and Gracian, and we played the SWR festival in Portugal, and he was there, and with a whole booth of his work, and he did all sorts of logos and that look like different things, look like he had Art Nouveau logos and Art Deco logos and logos that look like trees and ones that look like insects and spider webs and all pretty much anything you can think of. And so I was just enthralled with his work, and I said, well, here, take everything at my merch table if you will make the logo for me, which he did. And I think it's great. I think
we can't get enough
it's
of
a
that
really
logo. It'll be stuff
it's
forever.
we're kind of stuck with that logo because it's just so interesting looking, even though most people can't read what it says. That's okay.
It's a lot more readable than the death metal ones.
Yes, that was very true.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Anne and Brian. The new Darsombra album, or the current Darsombra album, is Doomsday Book. It's out now. People can order it on your website or through Bandcamp. And I want to thank the both of you for coming on the podcast to tell me more about it and to learn more about your band. I actually had a really fun time talking to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
well, thank you.
Thank you so much for asking us such great questions. We appreciate it.
Once again, I want to thank Brian Daniloski and Ann Everton of Darsombra for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, Doomsday Book, available now. Head over to your favorite music streaming app, take a listen to the album. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy, support the artist. For all things Darsombra, head over to their official website, darsombra.com. I also want to thank David Brenner at Earsplit PR for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.